What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me to talk about the absolute thrashing the Packers kicked off the new year with by dismantling the Minnesota Vikings at home is Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. The Vikings have been exposed as the frauds that they are by the Green Bay Packers.
There was a lot of fraud talk on the timeline this week, yesterday in general. A lot of
People
fraud
don't like
talk.
frauds.
One I saw was a tweet that said "ring ring," and it was a fraud alert. It was a picture of the Vikings logo. So,
Also, I was 30 years old when I realized that the side of the helmets, those are Viking horns.
oh my Lord, Jordan, like the oh, buddy. It took you that long, huh?
I was like, whenever I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's a cool, like little like doohickey that like droops
a,
down.
a little doohickey.
Doohickey. It turns out they're called the Vikings for a reason.
And their helmets are designed with little doohickeys as such.
Yeah.
That is funny. But of course, the the Packers defeated the Minnesota Doohickeys 41-17
Damn right.
on New Year's Day in an absolute just fantastic game in pretty much all assets or all facets of the game. Started off a little slow, but ended pretty strong, I'd say.
I would I would definitely agree with that. It was just like an avalanche. Pretty much the whole first half of just like there's another good Packers thing. Oh, you want to take it to 105-yard touchdown, Keyshawn Nixon? Not to spoil the games and all the things that we're going to go into, but it was just like everything that you possibly could have imagined how this would go actually happened.
That's right. Um, so to put it briefly before we get into the drive-by-drive breakdown, when Jalen Naylor is your leading receiver, things aren't going for you going for you well as a football team. So let's hop right into it. Like we had said, it started pretty slow, really, really slow. Um, Punt from the Vikings, 3-and-out, just another outstanding play by the defense. Um, just to negate that momentum of coming in to the game for the Vikings and really trying to show up and force their will upon the Packers who are trying to pretty much shut down their playoff hopes. Packers then get the punt and then proceeded themselves to go 3-and-out. So overall, not a very fast-paced start or a great start for the Packers offense. Even worse, the Packers special teams as the punt gets blocked, as Dalen Levitt gets absolutely blown up on the punt, I guess, blocking. Yeah, I'm not gonna say coverage because that's wrong, but he was defending the line and got steamrolled by two Vikings, and one of them got their hands through. And good for him for showing the effort to get up and then recover the ball so it didn't go in the end zone and get it down to one. So, I guess horrible job getting blown up. Good job still staying with the play.
Yeah, very much so, and doing his best to save whatever you could be left.
Yeah, big swing too because at that ball at the 1 yard line and not three straight, a pass to Adam Thielen that was off target, but not a great throw, but Thielen probably could have caught it. And then two straight rushes by Dalvin Cook, and the Packers defense stands them up, only leaves them to 3 points, which is huge. I think they actually lost a yard from the 1 yard line.
Yeah, yeah, that was a huge stand by Packers defense right there.
Yeah, and it was just, I guess, the beginning of the trend of the rest of the game of the defense sort of imposing their will, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, in my notes, I have on the Dalvin Cook like stuff just Devontae Wyatt eye emojis because they were all stuffing the holes. Like there's Devontae Wyatt stuffed a pretty big hole that Dalvin Cook could have rushed right into to make him cut, and then obviously get tackled, and then um, Kenny Clark and I think it's T.J. Slayton was the one.
Yeah.
Um, just lived in the backfield on those two rushing plays to blow up that
So
drive
good.
and hold them 3 points.
Yeah.
And that I think
That's huge.
we'll talk about a little bit later too, but the front seven played a pretty big role in this game and just closing off holes. Um, so without a doubt, the most exciting play of the day, even though there was another really exciting play we'll talk about in a little bit. Ensuing kickoff from the Vikings to the Packers after the field goal. Kickoff to Keyshawn Nixon, and the kickoff coverage parts like the Red Sea, Jordan. The cam from CBS was behind the kicker and going like right through just showed the biggest 10-yard wide hole for him just to run right through. Uh, I have a tweet here, right? Yeah, a tweet from Matt Schneedeman talking about Keyshawn Nixon. Keyshawn Nixon didn't practice all week, as you guys obviously probably know, but on Sunday morning he texted Rich Biasacha, quote, "I feel like a Ferrari." Whoo,
Oh,
baby, my heart. I was listening to Wayne Larrabee and Larry McCarron on the drive home from the holidays, and Wayne Larrabee called him Secretariat at the Belmont Stakes. Oh man, my heart was awesome for all these calls. Obviously, takes it back 105 yards, touchdown. First time since 2011 the Packers have had a um, kickoff touchdown return.
is that Randall Cobb?
That's right, on opening night.
Saints game? Yep, that's right. Yep.
Yep. So, suffice to say, the Packers were overdue for a kickoff return from touchdown. Jordan, I want to know your reaction to watch this because I just had the biggest smile on my face watching this entire thing.
Super annoyed by the camera angle. I was super annoyed. I was like, I can't see anything. And then it's like, it, my annoyment level was like, that hole is huge. Like he's going through it, and there's no one there. Um, Seeing the replay of it of Greg Joseph of like, do I go left or right? And it's literally it is
Greg Joseph.
it's literally yeah, in multiple ways. Good lord. It is literally a one-on-one situation, and it's with a kicker, and it's like you are the last man left.
Yeah, not
And
not ideal.
no, I believe I saw today that Keyshawn Nixon only played 3 plays all game long because that can't be right. Because
I can
he
look it up quick. Keep chatting.
because either way, for all the talk, and obviously every Packers fan was watching um, injury reports released every day, and he's questionable. He didn't practice. He practiced this day. Matt LaFleur kind of saying, "Oh, he's going to practice," and then doesn't practice that day. There's just all this stuff of like we need him to like really be out there because of just how much he can just change the game.
Right.
To do that in so like in short order and literally flip the game on its head and just do everything that that he's been doing, but just now putting it home and getting 6 points and 7 points out of it. Like,
Right.
oh my god, it was so great, so great.
Um, Keyshawn Nixon did only play 3 snaps. He played three special team snaps, which might not be a bad idea given that he was nursing that. I think it was a groin injury, right?
Yes, yeah,
Go ahead.
that sounds right because that's why he left the Miami game.
Yeah, nursing the groin injury. Gets 7 points on the board for us, and Rudy Ford and Donald Savage played most of the safety snaps this game, and I think they just wanted to keep rolling with resting him a little bit, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think they really needed him on defense
job
too
was
much.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the job not finished, not yet, Jordan.
no.
Um, so then, ensuing Vikings drive from the touchdown, another 3-and-out. It's only 7 yards on that. Helped out with the fact that, um, as we talked about in the preview pod with Ty, TJ Hawkinson was a huge part of this game. The third drive is an incomplete pass to TJ Hawkinson. The weird play where Kirk Cousins like fumbled the snap, but then Dalvin Cook picked it up and ran for like 7 yards, and then another incomplete pass to TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson for the day, 7 catches on 12 targets for 59 yards. Those 12 targets felt like they were like 18, 20. Like I felt
Yeah,
like every drive they were targeting him and targeting him multiple times on those. So really, um, I guess, important that they held him to 7 catches because there was definitely passes he dropped this week where
Yes.
it was going to be a first down or going to be like a significant play and just dropped. I think there was like one for sure where where it was right off his hands and it been a huge play. So that's big fan of TJ Hawkinson in weeks where he isn't playing the Packers, but big fan of him having a dropsy day today or on Sunday.
Yeah. Is now the time that we go into Kirk Cousins, or do we let this simmer a little bit? I'm just like,
Let it simmer a
yeah,
little bit.
we'll put it on low. It's a low heat. It'll boil soon.
Right. I'm trying to see if there's like an actual like drop number that I can find for TJ Hawkinson. They don't give him any drops, which is pretty crazy. 'Cause I'm pretty sure he dropped at least a couple. They must have been pretty lenient on some throws where he got hands on the ball and didn't make a catch.
There's
Because there was the for sure one that was like right off his fingertips over his head.
that sounds right. Yeah.
So PFF must be giving him some pretty lenient decisions there.
The graders are it was New Year's Day for everybody in
Yep.
terms of the graders, I guess.
um. So ensuing drive for the Packers, the Green Bay punt is returned to the for 10 yards to their 38-yard line. Aaron Jones, big day for Aaron Jones. We talk about him in a second. Um, ran for 14 yards and then was pushed out of bounds for 9 yards. Second one, third and one, fourth and one, all at the Minnesota 39. Another really weird just set of downs, and this is like early on in the game when we really didn't know what to expect. In this game, like obviously turned out to be really good, winning 41-17. But you're up 7-3 at the Minnesota, we'll call it 40,
Mhm.
and it's second one and third and one and fourth and one, and the plays go Aaron Jones up the middle for no gain, which is like okay, fine with the play call. But then AJ Dillon out pitched outside, which I don't like as a play call. Like, why not just run him up the middle?
Yeah.
And then Aaron Rodgers sacked for 15 yards, which wasn't good. I'm trying to scroll up to my notes here.
Could have
And
been worse based
yeah,
on the fumble that it got reversed.
yeah, it could have been a lot worse. And I have,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, that play. I think that was the drive where they basically call after the Jones's like 9 yard gain. They basically call the same play but flip the field and then
yeah,
did it with Dylan again. And it's like they obviously knowing what we going through the whole game and everything like that. They made such an effort to get the ball to their running backs between
hmm
Jones and Dylan.
right,
And yeah, there was some definitely feeling out in the first couple of drives that like offensively was like it's not clicking yet. It's not clicking.
right. I think it's definitely, I'm not gonna say worrisome. It's definitely a theme to look at just throughout this game because
Yes.
um, I guess we'll get to it. We'll get to the theme in a moment after this next couple of drives. So Packers end up turning over on downs immediately. Minute 15 later, um, Packers. I'm sorry, the Vikings incomplete to T.J. Hawkinson, incomplete to Justin Jefferson. This is the play where Dryer agreed on him. Really great.
That's right. Yes.
We're gonna take a side note, just a little fork down the road or roundabout way to get the rest of the drive. The energy that Justin Jefferson left this game with is incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, Justin Jefferson is top two in wide receiver in the NFL right now, given like this year. But to come
Mhm.
out of that game being like as salty as he was, because I thought he was complaining about taunting and saying that he got in his head and it should have been a penalty. It's just like accept that like you got shut down and don't
Yep.
call for a taunting penalty. Like I'm good for like saying that you could like miss miss DPIs. Like that's an understandable complaint. A complaint about missing a taunting call might be the softest shit I've ever fucking heard of.
It is very sad. That is for sure. And there was a lot of talk from Jair of going into the week of what was the exact quote?
The
It was a
fluke.
fluke. His week one performance, Justin Jefferson and the Vikings 23-7 win over the Packers. It was a fluke. 9 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't think it's a fluke, but I also don't think this was it's another. It was basically the case of extremes where Justin
Right.
Jefferson has a field day against the Packers in week one. In week 17, he gets absolutely shut down in ways that he has not done or been shut down any other week this year.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was that whole how that everything just kind of went about itself, as we'll get into with Jefferson and Jair, and just like obviously the Packers defense.
Right.
Pretty special stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that we were talking about all the way back in September, and like this is what the Packers are capable of, and to actually see that come into reality was fantastic.
Right. I wouldn't say it a fluke. I like your comment of saying it's like the opposite end of the extremes. Like I
Yeah,
think the worst case scenario for the Packers week one is what happened week one. Just
absolutely.
horrible defensive game planning, great game by Justin Jefferson and just not being prepared. And then the opposite of that is Packers are really prepared for Justin Jefferson and he has a bad game and Kirk Cousins has a bad game and results in one catch for 15
And
yards
no taunting calls.
and no taunting calls. So we'll talk Jair and the secondary, or Jair specifically, in the once we get to the third quarter, because that's when Justin Jefferson has his first catch, and then I want to go back and talk about like his day. So, um, going back on the track of the game now, they also were after the deep incomplete pass to Justin Jefferson, another pass to T.J. Hockenson, 8 yards. So like again, he was really involved. Like 12 targets really sums it up for how the Packers saw or how the Vikings saw they needed to use T.J. Hockenson throughout the day.
Yeah.
Just really great for the Packers to keep him within check as much as he could. I'm trying to
Mhm.
like see if I can find it quick if I can see for yards after catch for T.J. Hockenson today, because or Sunday, excuse me. I felt like it was not a lot
No,
because it
it
was.
was
Go ahead.
especially with like how a lot of those throws were just in tight windows. Like
Mm-hmm.
as much as they were probably looking for mismatches, and I forget who was like kind of primarily covering him, even though it was kind of split between defenders. But to the point of like where, oh yeah, they get it to Hawkinson, but it wasn't like he was running for daylight. The only daylight the Vikings had were like kind of free plays,
Right.
really.
T.J. Hockenson had 16 yards after catch today. It was 59, so not a whole lot
Yeah,
given his targets and his reception amount. I think that's a
definitely.
good point to talk about T.J. Hockenson too. Like it wasn't just one person; it was the entire defense covering him and making sure that he wasn't having a huge day on any certain person.
Mm-hmm.
Razul had 4 targets against or 4 targets while covering T.J. Hockenson, 3 for 4, 20 yards. Quay had 1, 0 receptions on 1 target. Adrian Amos had 1 reception on 3 targets for 13 yards. Um, Devondre Campbell had 3 receptions for 3 targets on 26 yards. Darnell Savage 0 for 1, like reception targets. So just a really great effort by the whole team to keep him in check, along with the fact that they benefit a few times from the drops that he had.
Yeah,
Even though
for
again
sure.
he didn't get credit for one, but he for sure had at least one. um, that brings us to the second most exciting play to happen this game. Kirk Cousins goes to throw it downfield to trying to see. Oh,
It was Adam Thielen.
I think it might have been Thielen. And it
Yeah.
gets tipped by. I'm see if I can have it in my notes. You remember who was tipped by? I forget.
Oh, Rudy Ford. I'm gonna say it was Rudy Ford.
Um, yeah. Well, I don't have it. Preston, or no, never mind. Preston blocked Kirk. That's what that's for. Yeah, it says a PBU to deflection. I don't have my notes, but to Darnell Savage. Darnell Savage having quite the up and down year between expectations and injuries and being benched and just coming back now to this game, exemplifying his athleticism and just being able to play like this. Like obviously, everything's chaotic in a return, but you have to make the plays, and he made the play to return it 76 yards for a touchdown. And I think one of the best scenes of the Packers season is Preston blowing up Kirk Cousins, making him look like a fool, falling into the end zone. And then they pan to Kirk Cousins after it, and it says Darnell Savage across the bottom, just pick six, and it's like, just Savage's name is always great for those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, uh,
It's
yeah,
both a name and a statement.
that's right. So, pick six turns it to 14-3, which is great news for the Packers. Um, and this is really where the wheels start to come off of the Vikings. I don't know if if the defense got rattled or if the offense got rattled or just what was going on. If the whole team got rattled, like we talked about it, I think in the Discord. Uh, news alert, bring, join the Discord. GSPN.info. Have a lot of good talks in there. Um, back to regular programming. That the Vikings being 11-0, I think, yeah, 11-0 in one score games this year meant a whole lot for them not flinching and not clenching when push came to shove in those games. Like they overcame the biggest deficit in NFL history to win in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like this team was resilient all year long and just winning those games and gutting out those wins. Like for as much as they were frauds, or not were, as much as people think they are frauds because of the point differential is as bad as it is and such a talking point because of their record, because they are winning those close games. Like it's for sure something that doesn't happen often because obviously, but if you're 11-0 in those games, you're finding ways to win and not rolling over in situations where most teams would say, okay, on the next week. And that's not really what happened this game.
No, they were. I mean, it was like a house of cards. It started with one pick, honestly, it really started with that goal line stand,
Yeah.
and it was the domino effect of like they weren't getting anything that they wanted, and if they did, it was really hard. You know what I mean? Like they're getting some completions and stuff like that. That was the other thing too. I'm watching the game is like we talked so much about like, yeah, the pack, even coming out of the Miami game, the Packers did really well. And, obviously we touched on the Tua injury, but they were still completing passes
Mm-hmm.
pre and post concussion. And this week felt different where they were on everything. And some of that was certainly helped by Kirk Cousins, you know, not play well at all. But it was just, it was the matter of like imposing their will, or even like it just comes down to like for that interception, when Savage gets it, it is just like immediate. You
Yep.
just see the blocking. It was like the kickoff return. The lane just opens up for itself like right away.
Right.
And it's like they have everything shielded off for him just to go down the sideline and score. And it was just stuff like that like, whether it was just, I don't know, aggression or just kind of like recognizing just to go, let's fire on all
Yeah.
cylinders. I just felt like the Packers just had it, and obviously the Vikings did not at all.
Right. They played with that tenacity that we wished that they would have played with all season long. Like they just had the fire in them today, and I guess like they got up today. Like they really got up for this matchup in a way we haven't really seen them get up through most of the season besides this last four games. Like I don't know what fire got lit under their ass these last month, but something about the Packers in January since LaFleur. They're 17-1 or 18-1 now, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty good, pretty good. December and January. My apologies.
Yeah.
Um, so ensuing kickoff for the Vikings gets returned for 39 yards. Not too good of a coverage on that one for almost 40 yards to set them up with some pretty good field position. Um, but they end up driving a little bit. They have Dalvin Cook for a negative yard, incomplete pass to Justin Jefferson. Um, then I don't want to say it's like a bad theme because it happened twice, but 3rd and 11,
Mm.
No contain on Kirk Cousins, which like, are you really worried about contain on Kirk Cousins? Turns out just maybe a little bit as the as he scrambles for 19 yards to pick up the first down, and that happened later in the game too.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to worry about it because it's not worth worrying about given how the defense played. But giving up that many yards on two rushes from Kirk Cousins, who isn't the fastest quarterback in the world, is just that tiniest bit concerning. Like that, for sure, one of them, I think it was Justin Hollins, went way too far. Oh, he
That
overextended.
was
That
definitely
was the
that
first one.
one.
That was the first one. He
Yes.
overextended behind, and he almost like got gifted a
You
sack.
almost got him.
Right, because
Yeah.
Kirk ran into him, and it was like, oh wait, can't go that way. Then ran for 20
Hmm.
yards. But then I think that was both of them. That was I think it was Justin Hollins that first one, and then Quay Walker the second one, where they just went too far outside the edge and broke contain, opening up the center or the middle of the field for Kirk to run. So then, um, after that run, first and 10, pass to Dalvin Cook for 16 yards, no gain, or I'm sorry, they went no huddle for I think briefly. It wasn't a whole lot of the game. Um, 4 yard rush by Dalvin Cook, incomplete pass to Justin Jefferson. Delay a game on Minnesota, which like was their center's fault. They lost their backup center early in the game, and that played a theme throughout this game. Like
Very much so.
this delay of game, there was one earlier where they didn't know the snap count. I believe there was a penalty on the Vikings for that, and then later in the game, um, I think there might be one on the next drive that they have. Um, I was trying to make sure I'm not missing one, but I know for sure in the second half, the entire offense moved, and the center didn't hike the ball. So like that's
Yeah.
just part of trotting out your third string center. So not ideal. So then that goes to third and 11, pass to Dalvin Cook for 1 yard, makes it fourth and 10. Greg Joseph, oh man, Greg Joseph, 46-yard field goal, and just nowhere near the uprights, just wide, wide right. So the this field goal gives the Packers the ball at their own 36, at which point they end up gaining about 20 yards. Two missed passes to A.J. Dillon and Chris Watson starts the drive, but then a pass for Alan Lazard goes for 14. Really a fan of his day.
Yep.
Alan Lazard, 5 for 6, 5 receptions on 6 targets, 59 yards. Um, I think, I don't know the exact stats for after he had um, today's game, but they mentioned on the broadcast that 75% of Lazard's catches this season have went for a first down or a touchdown. So like this
Makes
is
sense.
this is the Alan Lazard enigma,
Yeah.
where he makes impact plays and really does well as being, I don't want to call him a safety valve because he can't be relied on like that given some of the drops he's had, but it feels like when they need it, he makes the catch and gets the first down. It's
Yeah.
like when they're gaining momentum and like if he catches it, they're starting to move down the field. Those are when he gets bad drops.
Yes. Yes. The
So,
Lions game for sure. I can think of like examples of that kind of thing.
yep. So, yeah, just really good stuff um from Alan Lazard there. I got to get back to the proper tab here. Second and 6 after an AJ Dillon rush for 4 yards. Deep, deep pass to Christian Watson. He's got him. Hits him right between the hands and then into his face for an incomplete pass that ends the first quarter. Really wish he would have caught some of those passes today. He definitely had a few that he was worth that he could have caught. Also, a couple of bad throws by Aaron Rodgers just to not hit him in stride where he was going, but and a missed DPI call for sure that would have had a touchdown. So, but I'd like to point out that we've now been talking for 29 minutes and 50 seconds and counting. The first quarter has just ended on that throw
Yeah.
in real time. like from the beginning of kickoff to where the first quarter ended on my Hulu stream when I was watching it back, 50 minutes.
Oh my
50
God.
minutes to play one quarter of
Wow.
football.
It didn't feel like that.
I
But now,
disagree.
yeah.
I disagree.
Do you disagree?
I kept checking the time. I was like, where is it's still the first quarter? Like, I think it's like because obviously there were so many turnovers and there's like they cut to commercial after every score. So
That's true. Yeah.
like they went to commercial for the field goal. They went to commercial for the touchdown return or kickoff
Nixon.
return. Then
Savage.
right, and then picture.
Joseph misses a field
They
goal.
went to commercial after
Yeah.
that. Like it was just a lot of commercials, but also a lot of incomplete passes. There wasn't a lot of time running off the clock. Um, but it was a really long first quarter. Thought that was
It sped up as the game went along.
right.
Let's
It
just
definitely
say.
sped up as the game went along, and I thought it was fun. I was like, wow, that's a long quarter of football, and to be up 17-3 is good stuff. Or I'm sorry, 14-3 at this exact moment.
Mm.
Um, so second quarter starts, Packers driving, end up getting to the Minnesota 3. Nothing too huge. Couple of just chunk plays, 9 yards here, 4 yards here. But it was on this drive, second and 6. I think I'm pretty sure this is the play. Either this one or the next one. Aaron Jones up the middle or I'm sorry, off the right end for 7 yards, and then up the middle for 11. So this marked the third 1,000-yard season for Aaron Jones, and I don't think it can be talked about enough just how beneficial that he's been to the Packers' success these last 3 years. Like 13 and all Matt LaFleur does, except for this season, is get 13-win seasons, and I think he was a huge part of, especially the 20 and 21 seasons and getting to that mark.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even LaFleur talked about it after the game of like they know how especially Aaron Jones is to them,
Mm-hmm.
and even acknowledge like when we are at our best is because Aaron Jones is running the team or fueling the team or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And that part again, not to be a you know scratch a soul record again, whatever the phrase is. God, could not think. But the Packers are at the best when Aaron Jones is just featured in the offense as he was yesterday.
Yep.
He just and obviously the last few weeks are more complicated because he had a bum ankle and there's a lot of speculation about how would that affect him going to the Vikings game. It did not really affect him
Right.
all that much, I would say. In terms of just like his output and stats and all the otherwise, but like this is what they kind of needed. They balanced Jones and Dillon so well off of each other
Mm-hmm.
during this win.
It definitely wasn't an issue because he got 100 yards this season, but I definitely think they're cognizant, or 100 yards. They got 100 yards this game. Aaron Jones did. I definitely think they're cognizant of it though in how they're running him because I think they did take out Aaron Jones in like the fourth quarter. Because
Yes.
I know Patrick Taylor started playing, and then after AJ
Yep.
Dillon, like I think on AJ Dillon's touchdown drive, um, there wasn't a lot of Aaron Jones there.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they're cognizant of it and letting him get the work he needs, but not pushing him when he doesn't need to be playing, which is
Yeah.
always good. So with that being said, down to the Minnesota 6 and then ended up going to the Minnesota 3. Chip shot from Mason Crosby makes it 17-3. And then another bad drive for the Vikings, which I'm not sorry to say. Um, Dalvin Cook for 9 yards, Dalvin Cook for 4 yards. Here's the penalty on the center again, false start. Or well, they don't call it on the center. It was on the left tackle or the right
Oh,
tackle, but it was because he didn't snap the ball. Like
yeah.
they just picked the guy and gave it to him. Um, and then another penalty puts him at 1st and 25 after a hold, and then short, or I should say short, or short pass to T.J. Hawkinson for 12 yards, and then 9 more yards puts him at 3rd and 4. But this is the play where it was a pass to KJ Osborne, and he caught it over in the middle of the field, and Quay Walker and Rudy Ford took KJ Osborne and put him through a table like the Dudley Brothers in 1990 WWE. unnecessary roughness penalty. Like,
Yeah.
can't body slam the dude, but like Rudy Ford had his legs and Quay Walker had his like upper body, and it's like I immediately flash back to like 6-year-old me watching Bubba Ray and Dudley put dudes to the table because that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, it was very extreme.
Yeah, that's a
Very
thousand percent
extreme.
what it was. Um, so then next play, 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 31. Kirk Cousins lofts the pass for Adrian or for Justin Jefferson. Absolutely no chance. Like, or was it tipped? This
Tipped on the
one,
line. He lost his footing
yes,
on his route. And it was basically just like
yeah,
Adrian Amos, come on up. Here's the ball for you.
yeah. I'm trying to see. 'Cause I know for sure I had who blocked that one because I thought it was Devontae Wyatt at first, um, but it wasn't. Jaron Reed tipped it, so that's what I have in my notes. It was they never showed a replay, and I was like peering at like the numbers, just trying to make out what number it was, and Jaron Reed was what I ended up coming down with. So really
Yeah.
just great, great stuff to be have. Second interception of the game for Kirk Cousins. And spoiler alert, another one is um 1st and 10 for the Packers at the Green Bay 40. Short drive because just had a couple big plays. 6 yards from AJ Dillon, 3 yards from um Aaron Jones off the left end, but then 31 yards for him on just some great running, great blocking. Just again, Alan Lazard and the rest of the wide receiver blocking. And Marcedes Lewis, can't forget him.
Yep.
Just do such a great job to utilize Aaron Jones's outside rushing ability. Penalty, it gets a hold on John Runyon. Little short pass to Randall Cobb, who for 9 yards, who again did pretty well today. He returned one punt, was very afraid for it, but still a good punt return nonetheless. And then on a scramble play, more of a coverage touchdown, like a coverage, yeah, scramble touchdown is what I call. Big pass from Aaron Rodgers to Bobby Tunyon. Just like there's little flashes of old Aaron Rodgers just coming out this season, and that was one of those passes where it's off his back foot and his throwing motion is just like so smooth, and he leaves the wrist flick on some of
Mm-hmm.
those, and that was one of those. So an absolute dime to Bobby T to go up 24-3, and
With how much left? How much was left at that
this
point?
2 minutes and 41 seconds. So
Yeah, the game is already out. This
24.
is it was
Well,
yeah.
you can't entirely say that like knowing with hindsight, obviously, but like how would
Uh,
you really would have known having known that the Vikings scored 33 unanswered and just didn't have that propensity to clinch. Like I knew it going in to my watch that the Packers won this game because I watched it after the fact after it happened,
yeah.
but I wasn't confident in the offense of how it looked up until that drive.
No. And obviously there's plenty of reason to. I can say the same thing about the Vikings.
Right. No, I totally get that.
And
Just
I think
like
too, like this, I mean, it wasn't we were talking about it uh during our look ahead to the game and stuff like that. But like between Cousins just not having it for
mhm,
a multitude of reasons. Greg Joseph just biffing. I mean, he's a good kicker, but wide right, wide left on pretty pretty tough kicks.
right.
But in the elements and stuff like that, it was just like everything that could go wrong for the Vikings obviously went wrong. And it
Right.
was just like, yeah,
Especially in the first half. Like and that's just like what
yeah,
I don't that's where I was like, it can't keep I'm sorry if I can speak. It can't keep being this bad, right? Was my like
yeah,
thought process watching the game. Is like
yeah.
they have to make some sort of effort, right? Like there has to be some highlights for them in this in this third quarter when they come out and there just wasn't. Um but yeah, this last drive of the first half for them, they drove it pretty nice. Started at the Minnesota 22 and they got to the Packer 32. Um no big plays, just a couple of chunk yards. I think there was one play, 16 yards was their biggest play on this drive. But then, as you said, wide left from Greg Joseph, um, turns the ball over to the Packers, which the Packers run a great um, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays with 36 seconds left to end the half. Deep pass to Alan Lazar for 16 yards, then over the middle to Bobby Tunyon for 7 yards, and a spike. So they got 23, 23 yards and just about 30 seconds. And then Mason Crosby trots out. Um,
They needed every one of those yards, as we will find out.
needed every one of those yards. Trots out to kick or attempt his longest field goal at Lambeau ever. Well, made field goal. I think he's probably attempted further, but um,
Okay.
Mason Crosby, right boot, ball in the air, off the crossbar and in. Like that, I think that's the moment when you're like, okay, the Packers are winning because everything is
Yeah.
going their way. Besides that punt, like after that punt, everything has just went their way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was his longest make at Lambeau, I believe. Is what I've been seeing on the Twitter machine.
That is surprising in some ways, but not.
He's never had a huge leg.
Never had a huge leg, but I feel like he's had ideal circumstances to probably 56 yards. I mean, I know there's a lot of recent kickers that have like broken like 60 yards like routinely. Like Justin Tucker just kind of like exists in his own class. But yeah, that is still mighty impressive that you could do that in a January game
Right.
too.
You keep saying January. I'm like, it just doesn't sound right.
I know it does not sound right.
Matt Schneeman tweeted on New Year's Day, Mason Crosby's 56-yard field goal to end the half is the longest field goal in Lambeau Field history by a Packers kicker. So by default,
Now that is surprising.
yeah. Like I should. Yeah,
But then there's not
it
been
was
a
Crosby's career long at Lambeau. So
yeah.
but his career long is 58, and but that was away. So
Yes. Okay.
um,
Obviously.
that ends the a half 27-3. Everything coming up Millhouse for the Packers. Um, they get the ball to start the second half. Not a great start. 5 plays, 16 yards. Like that would have been a great time again to really feel good going in, not having the hindsight that they won this game. To go down and score a touchdown there would have been fantastic. Punted away. Uh, Vikings get it. They do their own drive. Like they drove pretty much the length of the field from the Minnesota 15 down to the Packer 15, and second and 10 as they're looking to score after a couple of pretty big defensive plays just on this drive. This is also the drive where the center had another false start, but not called on him, like a late start, we'll call it.
Yeah.
um, First and 10, they're Green Bay 15. The Kirk Cousins attempted a pass to T.J. Hawkinson and was jumped by Adrian Amos, like through the ball. Great pass breakup. Like if he doesn't get there at the touchdown for T.J. Hawkinson, would have probably a different feel. Like 27-10 feels a lot different and a lot more doable. Were it not for the next play where Kenny Clark sacks Kirk Cousins for lost 7 yards, but punches the ball out and recovers it himself. Like just a great sack. Like he gets in, and I just like as soon as I saw Kenny Clark, I saw it happen. I was just like, that was sweet. Like he just put the
Yeah.
ball right out of Kirk Cousins' hands and picked up himself and big turnover, big turnover.
Oh my God.
Tough day for Kirk Cousins.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. It is almost remarkable that this I don't know. I just can't resist like talking about just like he feels like the biggest overachiever as a quarterback I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
But you know what I mean?
I would probably agree with you had I not just had the name Nick Foles pop into my head. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl and got dismantled as a Colts quarterback last week. Like that's my only. I get your point. I think I would agree with your point if you're like, Kirk Cousins is the most overachieving starting caliber quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's the sample size of it. It's
Right.
Nick Foles, comes in and
Right.
Yeah, with Carson Wentz getting hurt. Kirk Cousins, it is repeatedly just like it's like a whack-a-mole. It just feels like, you know what I mean? It's like you're going up, and then it's like you have Stephon Diggs, you have Adam Thielen, who did like he's kind of past his peak, I would say, but like did
Kirk,
really productive things.
Kirk or,
Uh,
or Thielen?
Thielen.
Yeah,
You get Justin Jefferson. You got Dalvin Cook. You make a lot of money for a team that needed a quarterback at that time, and it's like up and up and up and up, and then it's like every time it's like you go back down, and it's
right,
like hard. It is so he. I just and it's not even like it's one of those things where he is at the center of like all these bad things
right.
repeatedly. He throws the picks, it bounces off someone's helmet, and he catches it, and he goes for a touchdown or whatever it is.
Yeah,
It's like that kind of thing of like you're strip sacked by just standing there,
right.
and it's like you just can't help. He can't help but being who he is. I don't understand it.
I think that Kirk really benefits from games where teams let him beat them, like the Packers did in the first
Yeah,
game. But as soon as like he gets that little bit of adversity, is where this starts to happen. Like I think
yeah,
he's, I don't know how should I put this. I think he's talented. I think he has a place in the NFL. I just think he's prone to games like this that make it really hard for him to ever achieve like that really good next level. And I think he's uplifted a lot by the people around him, like Delvin Cook,
absolutely.
Stephon Diggs,
Jefferson,
Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Like,
Thielen, throw in Hawkinson now
yeah,
because
like he, yeah,
I know they talked a lot about on during the game, specifically Tony Romo, of like the reason why things didn't work obviously for him and Jefferson is that like he is going through his reads and Jefferson is still running his routes.
yep,
Part of it, obviously, as you mentioned, definitely due to the pressure that the Vikings line succumbed to, and the Packers defense is getting home repeatedly and pressuring him,
hmm
sacking him, forcing the ball out of his hands, all that stuff. But I so you have that layer of it of like, well, he's doing the best he can under the circumstances. But it's also like, I also think that based on what they kept doing to try to get out of it, it was like you're exacerbating the situation when it's like you're putting him. I don't know, it's twofold because of like you look at Kirk Cousins being who he is and just like he can do these things when the circumstances align with one another. But
right.
when things, take one of those things away, like good pass protection, which is not easy to come by,
It's been
as much
tough
as
for them
we
this year in general too.
very much so. And what was he's had a career high in sacks allowed or
Yep,
sacks
pressures and
hit.
sacks this year. He's or hit. I'm sorry, hits and sacks this year. He's getting
Yeah.
hit a lot.
So obviously there's like an infrastructure thing, but then it just leads into, well, you're not seeing the guys that you're looking towards, they're not seeing you, or you're seeing them before they're actually looking at you and all that stuff. Like, I don't know, that it's such a, we always part of the football, like, oh, he's doing bad, blah, blah, blah. Like we saw with Tua before the concussion stuff came out too, where it's like you throw 3 picks, you're garbage, you're blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it's like, it is also a circumstance, or like it's happening based on what's going else or going on elsewhere around the field and stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. It just, what do you do with a quarterback like that? Like it's tough to
Mm-hmm.
um grade and judge a quarterback like that when it's so boomer bust at times. So
Yeah.
um but as we talked about as we talked about ensuing drive from the Packers, big touchdown drive, and just drove the field 20 start the game with 24, ended up with a touchdown from Aaron Jones. I'm sorry, AJ Dillon up the middle, but just a lot of good chunk plays this drive. This was one of the drive where the same drive the Vikings had 10 men on the field for like legitimately half the play clock. One dude runs off the field, and Aaron Rodgers and the offense are like looking around like, okay, like
Oh my
they have
God.
10 men. What are we doing? And they like go through and figure it out, and then ended up with like a 9 yard pass or something to Randall Cobb, 11 yards. But they had plenty of opportunity to run out player out there and never did. And like, I'm not kidding. Like 6 plays later, they got him caught with like
Yeah.
14 men on the field as like three were running off. Just really funny. Um,
Ah,
but yeah, 11 yards to Christian Watson, um, 15 yards to Alan Lazard, 11 yards to Romeo Dobbs, who has been quiet since his return from injury, but it's nice to see him getting in the mix a little bit. So hopefully that could just be a rounded out offense in the playoffs, should we make it, or next year with the wide receiving core. Um, but yeah, then more AJ Dillon ends up with a big run up the middle to score the touchdown. Without, I guess the play before that, he absolutely obliterated, or 2 plays before that, whatever it was. Oh no, yeah, it was the play before it. Obliterated. Harrison Smith ran right over him to get to the 2 yard line. Drug
yep.
Patrick Peterson with him, just put his shoulder down, ran him right over. So that made it 34-3, and then um, that was right at the end of the third quarter. Ensuing kickoff, Vikings get it. Kirk Cousins tries to go into hero mode. It's the fourth quarter. This is their time. Lofts it up for Justin Jefferson. This is the interception that had absolutely no shot of being completed. Uh,
Yeah.
Rudy Ford comes over. Thank you very much. I will take that. Like it was just floated, and it was an awful pass. Awful, awful, awful pass. So Rudy Ford interception. Big fan. Big, big fan.
Big fan.
Yep. Um, Packers get the ball at the 45. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me stop. This is where I want to have the discussion on the defense because they played out of their minds on Sunday. Like I don't have like the exact yardage amounts for all these things, but Justin Jefferson had the one catch in the third quarter, um, for 15 yards was what we said, yeah. And then through that through that play, I think Kirk Cousins did end up staying one more in for one more drive. He had a pass for 9 yards and then a pass for 47 yards on the Jalen Naylor touchdown. So 56 yards. So take that away from his 205 total. They held Kirk Cousins to 150 yards through 3 quarters. That's good.
That's very good.
That's really
Very
good.
good.
Not to mention the 3 interceptions and the fumble. Like
Yeah.
the the front four, we'll call them because even though they have a 3-4 defense, they've changed their philosophy to really just rushing four now. Um, like Preston Smith, Justin Hollins, both did really good setting the edge today. I keep saying today, Sunday. um, Kenny Clark, Jared Reed obviously had a really good game with their contributions with the tip pass, the interception, and the strip sack fumble. Um, Quay Walker was flying around. Devontae Campbell was making tackles. Like the entire defense played 4 quarters of good football. Jordan, this was the first time all season we've seen this.
Is it the first time?
I think. I think they got diced like the dice in the Miami game.
I would have said the Buccaneers game, but it's not. But it didn't feel as good as this one,
I suppose
obviously.
that could probably be said. I won't.
And it still went down the wire.
Right. Like I think there were still plays in there where they had big plays let up. Like that was the big thing about this game is there like besides like what the two Kirk Cousins plays and the garbage time Jalen Naylor touchdown. Like I give no thought to the Jalen Naylor touchdown. Corey Ballantyne let it up. Like
Mhm.
name the 53-man roster. Corey Ballantyne is one of the last ones you name because he's just that far down and all that matters. No offense to Corey Ballantyne, you just don't. He's just not. He
Yeah.
doesn't play very often, and so um, I'm trying to see like Kirk Cousins had like the long of 19 yards for his rush. The longest receiving um thing besides Jalen Hurts was KJ Osborne's for 16 yards, but
Mhm.
then 13, 16, 16, 15, and that came on 2 catches, one catch, one catch, one catch. So like I'm good on having no receptions over 20 yards besides the garbage time one, and no rushes over 13 yards for the running backs. Dalvin Cook was held to 27 yards rushing today. Or
Yeah.
Sunday, my word.
Just go with it. Just go. We're going with it right now.
Yeah. So like the rush defense showed up. The pass rush got home a couple times and caused some havoc for Kirk Cousins, leading to interceptions. Just what a day for these guys, and just like a great show out in a game they needed to win.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, under fire all year long. We knew that the key to the Packers' success this year would be through their defense, at least
Yep.
early on. We've seen that in fits and starts, has been as consistent. Their best players have either been injured at times or lost in the season, obviously, too.
Yep.
Inconsistent. Could look at like Jair Alexander, even like quieter cases like Adrian Amos. Everybody's had at least stretches of not playing their best ball. And to see everything come together in the fashion that it did Sunday
Yeah.
uh, um, was just, it made it that much sweeter because it just felt like, instead of like pointing out, a player or a drive where they like, that's what we needed to see
Mm-hmm.
all game long. And it's like to go from higher expectations and middling expectations to be like, just prove that you're a competent defense. Just
Right.
let's just do it, kind of thing. And it turns out, I mean, the Vikings saw firsthand, not that their defense felt it, is more so their offense, but like, that's a team that is struggling with a defense at
Yeah.
far worse than the Packers, and they're in a better position than the Packers are right now.
Yep.
That kind of thing. So
Surpri-
yeah,
Go ahead.
no, you go.
I'll say surprisingly that was the Aaron Jones's game this week. He had 100 yards, or I guess he had exactly everything's going bad. I clicked on the wrong thing. 111 yards today. That was the first time the Vikings had let up an individual 100-yard rusher.
Yeah,
So like
that's
it doesn't sound right because like running backs had such success against them, but it was all in the passing game. And like
yeah.
and that's not to say that Aaron Jones
Actually,
didn't.
is Pollard? Did
That,
Pollard?
that was all like receiving because
That was
he lit
receiving.
him up
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
just like a really good show out by the defense, and obviously the offense um, just did its part too. I'm trying to look up the box score for the Cowboys game so I can tell you. Tony Pollard went 15 for 80 in the running game, but he went 6 for 109 in the passing game.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh
So
my god.
but yeah, just I have to eat crow. Like we have to have this conversation that if they have a good showing next week, we have to have the Joe Barry conversation on what do they do, because you and I both, Jordan, have been calling for his head all season long. Argued he shouldn't even have made it this far. And now, in the last month, since December, um, Packers have allowed one touchdown in the second half, and that was that garbage time Jalen Naylor touchdown. Like they're just playing a more complete game, and you can say like the level of talent wasn't there. They're playing like they played the Dolphins, the Bears, the Rams, and then now the Vikings, which like are a good team. Like you can't complain about talent for that one or lack of talent. But those other three games, they just did what they were supposed to. To see them continue that and do it to the Vikings is encouraging, and they're trending in the right direction.
Trending in the right direction for sure. Joe Barry and the whole coaching staff, for that matter, have pressed the right buttons, have felt this sense of urgency, everything that you wanted to see, to salvage whatever, whatever percent chance that they had a couple of weeks ago to now that it's a win and you're in kind of
Right.
situation. I do think if we're looking at this very level-headedly, if that's a word,
Why would we
level-headed.
ever? We got to be reactionary,
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, we're fans, Packers, football. I could easily make the case that the the run that they're on, the fact that a lot of their defensive, you know, uh, prowess, I guess, the last couple of games has been based in generating takeaways, which, to bring up this word again, fluke. It can go so many different ways. It's why defenses regress so crazily from one year to the next,
Right.
and the Packers kind of managed to avoid that a couple years ago with like when LaFleur first came to Green Bay. They had that big, probably talked about it way too much at this point, but like Pettin is the lone mainstay on the coaching staff.
Yep.
They, we saw how that went and all that stuff. But for where the Packers were, and the fact that it coincided with the stretch where Aaron Rodgers was the most reckless he has ever been with the ball, and that's an incredibly high standard, obviously, that he set for himself. But even beyond that, it was the fumbles. It would be trying to handle the ball, and it just goes between both, four sets of hands.
Yep.
And stuff like that just was not going the Packers' way. Now it's going to the Packers' way, where their defense is not only forcing takeaways, they have interception return for a touchdown, a special teams touchdown for the first time, or a kick return touchdown for the first time in a decade.
Right.
Like stuff like that is certainly contributed to where they are in this run and stuff like that I think is obviously benefiting Joe Barry, if we're talking about like that conversation specifically, but the defense overall, because it's the luck factor of like that's catching up to them. They were down on their luck by all means just a few weeks ago, and now that luck has turned, and it's just a matter of, can you still get in those same spots to continue creating takeaways, wreaking havoc, and all that stuff that has really turned this team into what, again, what we kind of thought was going to be the case going into the year.
Right. And I think like they talked about it too, like Tony Romo touched on it during the game. He's like, yes, the Packers team is playing like how they should have been playing at the beginning of the year. Like they are, to bring back the old, I think it's Dennis Green, right? The old Cardinals coach. They are who we thought they were, and they're running the ball with purpose, and it's not. It's like the focal point of the Packers offense now. Their defense is styling and profiling and holding receivers to 0 yard or 15 yards on one catch, and just doing really good things and playing as a team. So yeah, it's gonna be a conversation, and it's, if they play well against the Lions, knock on wood. Gotta reach over, good close up on the old camera there. Um, I think it's just really going to be an interesting conversation, because it's, if they win on Sunday against the Lions, their season long winning streak will have matched their season long losing streak. So it's like there's two big fluctuations going from losing 5 straight to winning 5 straight. Like obviously, like you guys can tell, our moods are much better right now as this team is winning than it was in the just awful time of that was during that 5-game losing streak, ending with, ironically, coincidentally, the Detroit Lions. So it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. Just to wrap up our recap of the drive, so we don't miss anything. After the interception from Kirk Cousins, Packers go down and score a touchdown on a amazing little run from Aaron Rodgers. It's amazing, just feels amazing. I was at the game forever ago. I forget when it was, when Aaron Rodgers rushed for a touchdown. He like juked out this Vikings defender and ran right in. And
oh my god!
I had like flashbacks to that with this little pump fake that Rodgers did to get the defender up in the air and run around him. So he has a knack for doing that. So that made it 41-10. The aforementioned Jalen Nailor touchdown came after that. Or I'm sorry, no, that was before that. My apologies. They pulled Kirk Cousins from the game, and Nick Mullins, of all people, led a drive down the field to then make it 41-17. A game lot not as close as the score would say. So Packers end the game on a kneel down. That's it. That's all she wrote. Jordan, do you have anything else to say about our Green Bay Packers and this dismantling of the Minnesota Vikings?
Um, they answered the call. This is
Yep.
what we wanted. We needed to see a complete victory and performance. And um, yeah, there was definitely some things to work on offensively. It wasn't exactly a clean game on that end of the ball, but or side of the field, whatever, whatever way to describe the offense. Um, but players stepped up, multiple players stepped up when needed, and for as much as we can really lay the blame on why the Packers are in this position in the first place, that they, in many ways, this should not be the case because of everything else. Like, it's just crazy to go through all these run of scores of, leading up to the game. It's like they get all the help they need in
Yeah,
almost
last week
every
and this week.
freaking game. Yeah, last week, this week, even going back to when was after the Bears game. It just started like just going on and on. It's like, well, they lost. Oh, that
Right.
team lost. The Seahawks have lost. And like everybody's sliding. The team that had the best chance and had the tiebreaker over the Packers, Washington, a couple of weeks ago, changes quarterbacks, and we saw how that turned out.
Right.
And they lose and they're eliminated from playoff contention. Literally everything that could go the Packers' way has gone their way,
Hmm.
and they have taken care of business in the most emphatic way possible against the Vikings. And it's very, I feel obviously very optimistic, more so than I have at any point this season. um, but it is just a scary prospect to know that like all this work could just go away if
With
they lose.
I saw the tweet from Peter Bukowski yesterday after the game, Sunday after the game, and like this outcome has two like realistic. Or this season has two realistic outcomes. Either you embarrassingly lose to the Lions on national TV on Sunday night, or you go to the playoffs. And this is the year you finally beat the Niners and like advance to do something special. There's no in between. Like there isn't. Like this is how it is. So obviously there is, but that's not the point. So um yeah, I'm already nervous for next week. We'll get talk about it more our later pod this week, but we picked them to lose again and they won. So I will not be picking the Packers to win another game this season. I'm not stitious. I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious.
Just
Alrighty, folks, that does it all for us. As we mentioned, we'll be back later this week to talk about the preview for the final game of the regular season against the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. Flex to that primetime spot, so we'll get a little nightcap of NFL football. Um, Check out all the other podcasts on the GSPN Podcast Network, even though that was redundant. um, Ty Rohan released an episode of Eurostep today. I think it was today on Monday, talking about the New Year's resolutions for the Milwaukee Bucks and the fans. Spoiler alert, not that I listened to it, but I'm guessing it's going to be resolutions to take a little bit off of the Chris Middleton worrisome, even though it is a little worrisome.
mhm.
Um, then Jordan, I believe you and Adam at least went in six late last week, correct?
Yes, we talked plenty about the rumors and reports, I should say, too, that Mark Lazary has been actively looking to sell his share of the Milwaukee Bucks. So
Yep.
the implications about what that move can mean, and we went through a bunch of scenarios of why the timing now. I think that's probably the biggest question that both of us had of
Right.
why someone would do that, which is I thought was very interesting.
And then Adam and Andrew Snyder released an episode on Avatar: The Way of Water on the Make Time for This feed. So go check that out if you've seen that 11-year film process and James Cameron doing his James Cameron thing. That is it for all of us today. Thank you again, everybody, so much for tuning in. You will catch us again later this week. Happy New Year, and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.